One raspberry patch is failing, but another small one is starting to thrive. I've reached out to a friend who has masses of strawberry plants and is happy to share. So I'm extending my swale raspberry patch. Hi, I'm Linda and this is Huttons Valley Permaculture. About 3 months ago, I redid my raspberry patch. But as you can see, the plants are failing. In the first 2 years, I had very abundant harvests of raspberries from here, but I think the soil over time has been impacted by the position of the pond and its overflow. Water from the roof here comes down and then flows into the pond by design, but the overflow is just over here, and I think this garden is just getting way too damp. This is the second year they've failed, so rather than persist in this area, it's good to recognise where plants are growing really well, and I'm going to extend that area by planting a whole lot of new plants. And in this area here, I'll add in some water-loving plants instead. I've just picked up all of these raspberry plants from a friend where they were just growing abundantly, and all it's cost me is a dozen duck eggs and some meaty bones for her dog. Now, plants can be really expensive, and when I decided to extend my raspberry patch, I recalled a friend saying the raspberries in her garden were becoming a real problem and they were spreading everywhere. So the lesson here is don't be afraid to ask. I decided to ask this friend if I could have some of her problem plants, and she was more than happy to share them. So now to the fun part, getting them planted. Just got to go grab the rest of my supplies. I'm going to use just a little bit of compost, and I'm going to mulch them with some wood chips. Just ran back to get some trimmers. As you can see up ahead, there's a tree down. We've had lots of rain and wind lately, and that tree's gone down, so I'm going to be replacing it. So as you can see, it's fairly large space with just a few little raspberries in already. I'm going to cut down this tree that has rotted in the soil and has been blown about by the wind. So I don't think it's going to come back, although I will leave some part of the trunk in the ground just in case. I'm going to replace it with the little prickly currant bush, and that produces an edible little red currant, so that'll be nice in this raspberry patch. I'm just going to leave this in the ground and see if it just bushes up and reshoots. And of course, I'll be able to chop all of this up and use that to mulch my raspberries. Now, I do have quite a number of plants here, so first things first, I usually like to spread them all out and get an idea of the spacing, and then get started with the planting. Now, these plants were dug out of the ground yesterday, and some of them are wilting a little bit, but I did cover over all the roots with a layer of compost to stop the roots from drying out. If these plants have wilted too much, I might just trim them down a little bit, but I'll see how they go once they've got watered and had a little bit of time. When I dug the plants up, I tried to get a good root ball at the bottom if possible, just to help them re-establish, because they've already got some good growth. They're not dormant, and that'll help them get established a bit faster. some of them have just got a small system on them, so I don't know how those will go. Okay, so I'll start down the end of my swale. That's all my plants spread out now, which feels like pretty good spacing. Just here, I'm going to put the currant bush, so it's kind of in the middle of the patch. But from here, if these plants do get going, they can spread into the pasture area and be eaten down by the animals. Now, I did trim the grasses the other day, so I don't have to do that, but I do have to clear some space so I can dig a hole and get these plants in. It has had some woody coverage on there already, which is all these sticks, but it's not too hard to get started in the ground. One thing good about the weather of late is with all the rain, the soil is really soft and damp, and there's plenty of worms here. A bit bigger. Now I'm just going to bury this little one in with this bigger one and see if it gets going as well. I'm just going to put just a handful of compost around each plant and then grab some wood chips. And now on to the next one. With the soil very wet and soft, I think I can get away with just a small slit for some of these plants that don't have much of a root ball. So I'll just squeeze that in there, get that soil back in and around, and I think that'll be perfect. This plant is a little broken, but I hope with the decent size root that it will shoot up again. Okay, that's the last of our raspberries. I've just got to put some more wood chips on those last few and then I can get my currant plant in the ground. So just the currant plant to put in now. I've got daffodils planted in this section here, which is why the grasses still look long there. So I'm just going to put this little tree just back here. With all the plants in the ground now, all I'm going to do is finish off with mulching with this tree branches that I've cut down. And I'm just going to trim them just a little bit and place it down around the area. That's all the raspberry plants in the ground now. I just have to organise some water for these plants and hopefully they'll spring back into life. I'll be checking on them tomorrow after I've given them a good water, and if they need to be pruned a little bit I will do that, but I'm hoping now that they're in the ground they'll recover. It's 2 weeks later and I'm back out here at the raspberry patch just to check on the plants and see how they're going. Now, I did want to reinforce that the timing of this could have been better. Ideally, you want to move your plants before they sort of put on too much growth, because it can be a challenge for them to re-establish in the growing period. But I did it when I thought about it. Sometimes I don't think about these things at the ideal time, and I know I've just got to get it done or I won't do it at all. So that's what I've done with these raspberries. It wasn't the ideal time, but it looks like some of them are starting to get some growth happening. Others are just sort of hanging in there. My hope for those is that the roots will establish, and by the time next season comes around, I might have some new canes coming up and a plant established. Now, I did end up trimming some of these plants just to give them a better chance of getting going. We have had some really warm weather that hasn't helped these plants get established, but as you can see there are some new shoots growing. That's a little shoot that looks like it will be growing fairly soon, and there's some new growth coming on these stalks as well. Some of the canes don't look like they'll be viable, but then you get a beautiful new leaf like that, which shows me that these plants are well and truly on their way. This plant here had quite a good root system, which is why it's established well. That's some new growth coming at the top there. This one's got the new growth there as well. Well, that's my extended raspberry patch. While the timing could have been better, I'm pretty pleased with how the plants are going so far. I'd really like to encourage you to not be afraid to ask. If you've got friends or family with abundance of plants, such as raspberry plants, you might be really surprised at what they're willing to share. And of course, you could always share your abundance with them.